all are part of the Spokane Sangha. Welcome. Friends, this is SatiSeva. It means mindful service. And SatiSeva, as I mentioned, is 16 mindfulness practices. And it's divided in 3 sections, a trinity of the spiritual human experience. It begins with 5 spiritual practices, and then 4 body practices, and then 7 mind practices. We have started this new year in the very first chapter, the mindfulness practice of awareness. The cultivation of awareness is the foundation of mindfulness. Mindfulness, sati, by definition, is present time awareness. So to lean into that very gently, I invite you all to close your eyes if that's available to you. And if it isn't, go ahead and just turn a gaze inward, look down at something, or stare at a candle, or a plant, or your pet. Something where you can concentrate your gaze. And for just a moment, on an inhalation, lean forward very gently and just feel what's happening in your body as you lean. And then on the exhalation, bring your body back into a posture of seated rest. Let's do that one more time. Inhale and lean forward. Exhale and lean back into that resting posture. You can even, on the next inhalation, lean back. See where that takes you. And then on the exhalation, lean forward. Very gently. Inhale, lean to the right. Bring your body back on the exhalation. Inhale, lean to the left. Bring your body back. Friends, this silly little practice of embodiment is a way of tickling the mind, stirring the mind to pay attention, to become aware that different things are happening based on the direction of how we're leaning. And we hear that in spiritual circles, to lean in, to sit with. And I think sometimes it's really important to take that quite literally, to see how that feels in the body, not as an emotion, but as a sensation. And when you get in touch with that sensation, when you have that awareness of that sensation, that's something to explore, something to be aware of. And it all comes from the practice of leaning in. That's a way to cultivate awareness. As you arrive to this practice today, and you find a posture in your body that feels at ease, which could include lying down, by the way. See if you can offer yourself a note of congratulations. You prioritized this time There are lots of other things you could be doing, but you chose to be here. And your presence here adds to the heart and beauty of this space. Are you aware of the sincerity of my sentiment? And can you be aware of whether or not you receive it, believe it, reject it, are suspicious of it? None of those options, that is, are wrong. They're simply points of awareness. They're access points of awareness. If you are suspicious of my sincerity because you don't know me, what a beautiful awareness to have. If you reject my sincerity, again, what a threshold to cultivate a little bit of curiosity of why am I armored? Why can I not let some awareness that my presence here matters? Julia is trying to let me know that I matter just as I am. And me being here is wonderful. It benefits everyone. Wow. Another voice of rejection sounds like acceptance, but it's really dismissive. It sounds like this. If it could speak, it would say things like, I know, whatever. That's sort of treating sincerity like a fly or a mosquito. Yeah, I get it. Get out of here. Again, another access point to awareness. So let's begin our practice there, shall we? With a few moments of silence. And then I'd like to read for you a little bit about when awareness speaks. I'll be introducing an instrument of peace. This is one of the tools of the SatiSeva mindfulness practice. And then I'm going to introduce to you a practice, actually. But for now, I invite you to allow your body some ease, some softness, and again, to hear my voice and to allow the sincerity of my sentiment to register in whatever way it registers. Again, how it registers for you is not wrong. It's simply how it registers. Your presence here matters. Just as you are adds brightness, wisdom, beauty to this space. Your presence here matters. Just as you are, you bring brightness, wisdom, beauty. Breathe with that a moment and notice what you notice. Friends, a long time ago, I learned the value of acknowledging the inner critics and the inner encouragers that live within my mind and heart. For years, I used to keep these voices quiet, private. And in some ways, that enabled me to be kind of manipulative to myself. The moment I started giving voice to these voices, the critic or the encourager, and I would speak those sentiments, those statements, those thoughts, those stories, those perceptions out loud, committing it to the air meant that I couldn't take it back and I couldn't manipulate it, change it. It was out there. And then I began to see more clearly because it was out there, it was out of my mind, out of my heart, and outside of me. And being outside of me created a little bit of space for me to see my mind and my heart with a little bit more clarity and a little bit more depth. In my mind, confined to my mind can be kind of tight and racing. But the moment I take those tight racing thoughts and I just give them voice, I give them air and I put them outside of me, I'm like, oh, there you are. Okay. I can look underneath you. I can look above you. I can lean to the side and see you better. What is this all about? And it gave me access to a couple of critical things. One was pause. Another was space. Both created the conditions for understanding. If you're reading along in the SatiSeva book, I'm on page 39, and I'm in the section called When Awareness Speaks. Now, I share this with you as my voice, my inner voice, but I want to encourage you to listen deeply to your inner voice. What does it sound like? What is it saying? And rather than judge it, just let it be what it is and give it some voice. When awareness speaks. One of my favorite instruments of peace gives voice to awareness by simply saying, well, would you look at that? Now, I have to say it like that. I have to get a little breathy. I have to emphasize the word well. Well. Almost kind of like a fairy tale witch. Well, would you look at that? I don't know why, but that's the sound of the voice. And it helps me laugh a little. It helps me get curious, like, ooh, what am I looking at? What's going on here? Well, would you look at that? I cannot tell you how often this single phrase has prevented me from engaging in unskillful actions. One day, I was in a store waiting in line to self-checkout when suddenly an intrusive thought shoved its way in. Before I knew it, I was furious, consumed by thoughts that erupted in my mind. What is the deal with me scanning my own groceries? When did I start working here for free? How did they manage to swindle away someone's job so I could do it instead and suggest it as a convenience? My entire body felt tight and awful. The awareness of that invited me to say, well, would you look at that? And use a mindfulness meditation to bring myself home to my whole being. And here's that practice. Julia, darling, would you look at that? Take a deep breath. Breathing in, look at your mind. Breathing out, look at your pounding heart. Breathing in, what's up with all the agitation? Breathing out, what else is here? If you're watching, you're noticing that I'm leaning side to side as I present these questions to myself. Again, leaning to get a different angle. Breathing in, calm. Breathing out, seeing more clearly. I shifted my stance and smiled slightly. I was not entirely okay, but I was able to decrease some of the heat I felt arising within me. And that, my friends, is something Thich Nhat Hanh called the miracle of mindfulness. It doesn't magically change a situation from something negative to something positive. That is not the point of awareness. The point of cultivating awareness is to see reality as it is, without any judgment whatsoever. And to give that isness enough space for understanding to emerge so that I can respond to it in such a way that I'm not creating any harm. I'm not compromising my integrity. I'm not reacting in habitual ways. I am aligned with my aspirations. To offer a counter perspective, a little self-inquiry is, how many times have you experienced some agitation and completely gone unconscious, no mindfulness, no awareness, and just reacted? Happened to me just yesterday. I was driving along, running errands with my 2 adult children, and we were trying to call for some takeout food. And we kept getting a busy signal again and again and again and again. My kids were so chill about it. I was losing my mind. I have no idea why, but I found it so annoying that immediately I was being sent to voicemail at this restaurant. And so what did I say to my adult kids? I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, is anybody working there? And my daughter, who's actually quite spicy, looked at me and was like, Jesus, Mom. And I thought, oh, right. Yeah, there it was. I just went unconscious. What was that all about? Would you look at that? Was it even about the restaurant? Was it even about calling and being on hold? Was it about something else? Was I hungry? Hangry? I have no idea. I didn't spend much time with it. I kind of let it go. But I bring it forward to just illustrate how quickly it's there. And that this practice is not about never experiencing it ever again. I think for some people that might be the goal. For me, that's not the goal. For me, the goal is to simply cultivate more awareness so that the time that I spend in agitation and frustration and irritation and annoyance and anger and disappointment lessens. Not necessarily because the situation lessened, but because my understanding and my presence to myself has improved. Wow. Well, would you look at that? One of the most tender applications for this instrument of peace is whenever we encounter craving or recurrence, whether it's in ourselves or in someone else. And when we take the time to be aware, oh my God, a craving has arisen. I'm feeling very, very tempted to go down that familiar path. To simply say out loud, well, wow, darling, would you look at that? There it is. Okay. Whew. What else is here? Craving is here. Okay. What else is here? Maybe I lean. Maybe I shake. Maybe I get a drink of water. Maybe I call someone. So many other things are also there, but we can't see them if we don't create a little bit of awareness and a little bit of space. You'll notice that my tone does not carry, oh no. It's much more gentle than that, and it's much more curious than that. Oh, a craving has come round. That's tender. That's painful. Would you look at that? And maybe we can't look at that right now, so let's look somewhere else. I'm going to go hug my dog. I'm going to go water a plant. I'm going to go make some food. And while I'm engaged in those activities, maybe I can give a little bit of thought to what's ever causing me discomfort. Just a little bit, very gentle. That's what awareness does. That's what space does. And this instrument of peace, would you look at that, is a wonderful, wonderful tool to help create and craft this condition. Friends, for the next few moments of silence, let's bring this into a breathing practice. and treat every awareness that comes to your mind or a sensation in the body with this instrument of peace, gently applied, joyfully applied. Wow, would you look at that? Maybe you have a cramp in your leg. Ooh, ouch. Would you look at that? Maybe your thoughts have been wandering to a memory. Let your thoughts wander and would you look at that? Maybe in the space of this practice, a regret has surfaced and you don't quite know how to hold it yet. Would you look at that? Maybe you have been scrolling on social media and feel a bit gloomy. Would you look at that? Notice what you notice. Maybe whisper to yourself so you can hear your own voice. Wow, would you look at that? That's here. What else is here? Enjoy what you see. Lean in. Friends, I'd like to take a step toward the conclusion of this practice and reflection by sharing with you another simple breathing mantra that I often say to myself, particularly when I'm in a darker place where I'm feeling a little doubtful or insecure, or my inner critic and inner saboteur has got the megaphone. For some reason, I'm letting them ride shotgun and they're constantly trying to grab the steering wheel of my life. So what I'll do is I'll breathe in, breathing in, present moment awareness. Breathing out the sacredness of all of me. Breathing in this present moment awareness. Breathing out the sacredness of all of me. One more time. Breathing in this present moment awareness. Breathing out the sacredness of all of me. Thank you, friends. What we'll be talking about on Wednesday is the next section in this chapter, which is called First and Second Arrows. And this is a spiritual token. It's a spiritual practice, really, cultivating the conditions of awareness. And it has to do with what we heard today from a couple of Sangha members, several Sangha members, really, about the awareness of noticing anything unskillful. That's the first arrow. The second arrow is all the judgments we now fire off at ourselves and others, and to become aware of that. And there are third arrows and fourth arrows, and it just goes on and on and on and on, however many we want. And the whole point is, again, it's not about not having arrows. It's about how am I using them? Am I harming myself? Am I shooting them at others? Can I just hold them in awareness and not react to them? And eventually, they change, they shift. I want to bring to your awareness a video I saw a while ago of a little girl who was speaking to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And she asked him, "Do you ever get angry?" And he just laughed and he said, "Of course, especially when I'm sleeping and I hear a mosquito." So, my point for bringing this forward is this black and white mentality that I know I have at times, that it's like anger bad, not anger good, outbursts bad, being composed all the time good. And that is a real limiting way of experiencing life. That's really keeping life very tightly contained. And so the question that is always on the mindful bit of this is, even if I'm unskillful, where's the harm? What is the harm? That's a really, really important question, because sometimes, for instance, we have an outburst because we're maintaining a very strong boundary. So for instance, I think about raising my kids when they were wee, and I would yell, get out of the street. Oh no, something like that. And they would hear anger in my voice that was probably there and fear, but it got their attention and they pulled right back and all is well. Was that unskillful? Maybe. Was it highly effective? Yes. Would they have responded with, such shock and awareness if I had been like, "Now, darlings, we're going to gently move away from the street and the traffic, and for heaven's sakes, right? For heaven's sakes." I think the other thing that I want to be sharing with you today as well is when we share our experience, when we bring this awareness out of the confine of the mind that has this tendency to be private and secretive, but really what we're getting at is the way it's manipulative. We keep it in the mind. For me, anyway, when I keep things in my mind, I have this um, uncanny ability to be so manipulative, to use this information, to use this inner critic as proof that, see, you really are kind of a shitty person, Julia. Um, Look at that. That was so unskillful. Why did you go there? But the minute I give it voice, the minute I put it out here, I create this space and I invite others to see it with me. And somehow that takes some of the sting, some of the toxicity out of it, and it really provides a little bit of neutrality to it. Talking about it also gives language to other people. So when we're in situations where we react unskillfully, and then we react to that reaction with blame, which could be merited, could be warranted, but again, it lessens our ability to respond with less harm. Blame is a very, very difficult quality to work with. And so, what we're trying to do here and what we're endeavoring to do here is to look at the conditions of the situation. That way, we're not so focused on a person and their misconduct or their unskillfulness. We're looking at the conditions that we've all participated in creating. And we take ownership of our own parts of it. And in our ability to talk about it, we give language to others to encourage them to take ownership for their part too. That's the brilliance of an awareness practice. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, friends, I'd like to bring us toward the conclusion of our gathering today. And we're going to meet again on Wednesday at 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And we're going to talk about first and second arrows and just how quick they are. And I think this is a very, very gentle practice, even though arrows can be very pointed and very dangerous. It's really, really important to approach this with curiosity and gentility. Because again, we can fire all kinds of arrows into ourselves before we're even aware that we're there. We've gone unconscious and there it is. And then we get mad at ourselves for going unconscious. It's just part of the practice. I want to let everyone know that Lo has posted in the chat the link to Soul Center so you can see our SatiSeva practices. We meet 4 times a month for these gatherings. It's the first and third Sunday and Wednesday of every month. And again, as I said, we're going to explore first and second arrows on Wednesday. And then on the third Sunday, we'll see where it takes us in terms of the instruments of peace. You can purchase this book on our website and where books are bought. If you order one from Soul Center, I'll mail it to you all gussied up and signed. So you can get a signed copy, and it helps support what we're doing here, and the mission of Soul Center. Lo and I are completely volunteer. Everything we do here is to simply support and underwrite everything that we offer for free. And so this was one other thing that we could do for our community, and we're very, very grateful for your support. We meet tomorrow morning at 8:30, right, Lo? 8:30, for meditation. And it's Monday morning meditation for mental health. And so I have created a year-long practice each month exploring very specific themes that can upend and dysregulate our mental health. For February, we're going to be looking at stress. And I know for myself, for some reason, I don't even I don't even know how this happened, but I kind of got into the pile-on. So this was stressful in my life, and then I started looking around for other stressful things, and I just like a gathering basket. I was like, "Oh, that's stressful. We'll put that in there. And what about that?" And suddenly I'm carrying this basket of all these stressors, and I'm scratching my head going, "Why am I so tired? I'm exhausted. And why am I kind of blue and blah? And oh, I'm feeling kind of heavy." And I have been gathering up the stressors in my life. And then because I'm so fun, I've been sprinkling it with a whole bunch of exaggeration and distortion. So things are spilling out. And so I'm just a barrel of laughs these days. And it does help to come into meditation, to practice some breathing techniques, to look at the foundations of mindfulness to help separate and peel some of these things away. And for me, to put this basket of stress down, not let it go. It's with me, it's me, but to put it down for a minute and uh, and in that space of releasing it a little bit, see what else is there. And I can guarantee you what's there are the qualities of resilience, creativity, replenishment. And for me, one of the keys here is how to share. And so when I put down my burdens of stress, I open up my capacity to share, which is incredibly healing to me. So that's Monday morning. You can register for that. If finances are a concern, email me. I don't want anyone not to meditate if they can't register. So just please let me know. We have Recovery Dharma tomorrow night, 6 p.m. There's a couple of other activities going on in Soul Center that you can check out. You can make a Dana offering. You can listen to our free recordings. They're on our podcasts. On Sunday next week, Sunday, Saturday, and Sunday, Recovery Dharma Global is having a retreat. And it's all on the cultivation of the heart practices. So these are the Brahma Viharas, the limitless qualities of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. On Sunday in the afternoon, I'll have to double check the time, but I'll be talking about equanimity. So you can join us and listen to that. Equanimity is one of my favorite things to talk about. Thich Nhat Hanh referred to equanimity as the capacity for one to include everything in your life, absolutely everything, and to include it in such a way and with enough neutrality that we can be free of it. Free of the judgment, free of the lingering, oh God, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did I wear that? Why did I think that? Free of all of that stuff. And to come into the precious moment and really savor the wonder and miracle of life. Alrighty, friends, let's end our practice today with a dedication of merit. And I'd like to read for you the very beginning of the SatiSeva book. These little sentiments that I really enjoy. Lo and I wrote SatiSeva as a way of really trying to cultivate a deep, rich, textured love for oneself and one another as we journey. May the wisdom of love encourage presence and care. May the tenderness of love be forgiving and accepting. May the strength of love nurture healing creativity. May the eyes of love gaze with gentle belonging. May the divine call to love ripple far and wide. I dedicate this book to loved ones for all the ways they inspire, challenge, and shape us. Thank you for bringing yourselves to this beautiful practice and gathering today. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Namaste.